Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Healthy Enterprise Podcast. Thank you for joining me again today. If you've been here before, I appreciate you coming back. And if it's your first listen, I hope you enjoy it. I'm joined today by Sona Shah. She's the CEO and co-founder of Neopenda, a company bringing life-saving medical technology to the places that need it most. Inspired by her time teaching in Kenya and fueled by a background in biomedical engineering, Sona co-founded Neopenda to tackle healthcare inequities in emerging markets. Their flagship product, NeoGuard, helps frontline providers deliver better care in overcrowded, under-resourced hospitals around the world. Please welcome my guest, Sona Shah. Okay, Sona, welcome to this episode. Thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to hearing about you and your career path and what's brought you to this stage and about your company. So when we start with doing a little bit of you can do a little introduction of yourself to the listeners and we'll take it from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here. So I'm Sona. I'm CEO and co-founder of Neopenda. We design medical technologies for emerging markets. But I'd really love to tell you a little bit about my background because it's not a super linear pathway to actually getting to where we are. But
I was looking at your background and I was trying to map it out. But
I can walk you through it a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
I studied chemical engineering at Georgia Tech, and actually this morning was really honored to be on the 40 under 40 list. So really excited to be.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool.
I appreciate that. It's sometimes imposter syndrome to see everybody else who's on that list. But anyway, went to Georgia Tech for undergrad. I studied chemical engineering and graduated a semester early. And so I had a job lined up in pharma, but didn't want to start that immediately. So I went to Western Kenya, as one does, and became a primary school teacher. So really nothing to do with engineering, but I loved it. It was this beautiful community.
Super interesting.
It didn't have running water. It didn't have electricity. So very different than what I grew up with. I became a lot stronger, and the kids stopped laughing at me towards the end of it when I was carrying my buckets of water. They were, full by the end of the trip. But I was there for several months, and it was this incredible experience. And I loved every second of it, except for the inequities that I was fortunate not to have growing up. Some were in healthcare, but it was kind of across the board in many different areas. And I'd gone in as a naive American thinking, I can change the world. And then realized I don't know that I actually did much for the community. But what it did do was really open my eyes to how a lot of the world lives and how different cultures are and how beautiful and incredible all of them are. So that's what it did for me. I brought those inequities, brought those experiences back to the US, started working in pharma. Again, totally different world. I was in bioprocess research and development. I was there for a few years. All the medications we were creating were going through clinical trials. And so it was a really fun part of the organization. I really loved the engineering, really loved the healthcare side of it. Understood a little bit more about why does it take so long for a drug to actually get to market. And so just going through all of these different pieces and getting my feet wet, first job out of college, and I loved it, but I kept thinking that the kids that I taught in Kenya may never see the medications that I was helping make. And eventually that ate away at me enough that I decided to go back to graduate school to somehow figure out how do we provide equitable access to healthcare around the world. I didn't know how to do that. So I went to grad school and I went to Columbia University for my master's in biomedical engineering and picked the lab because picked the university because there was a lab creating an HIV and syphilis diagnostic. I also wanted to have access to nonprofits. And so I interned at the TB Alliance creating tuberculosis medications. And so doing a few different things at once, living the really true New York lifestyle of roommates of bed bugs, too many jobs, no money. But it was a really
juggling, street juggling.
Yeah, throw that in there. Might as well. But it's such an incredible experience to have the access to all of that. And it was really in my second semester that I found my calling. I met Tess, my now co-founder, and we started in a biodesign course together where we started exploring neonatal mortality, newborn mortality, and why is it so much higher in low and middle income countries than in the US? And if course, there's about 1,000 problems that are contributing to that, but tinkering in our lab in New York wasn't going to get us anywhere. And so we did a ton of voice of customer research. We entered the venture competition, got some funding, and used that to go out to Uganda. And we did a needs assessment out there. And for those of you who haven't been, not just in Uganda, but in low resource settings around the world, every single hospital we had gone into was overcrowded and it was understaffed. I think the first ward I had gone into, there were 150 babies. They were on tables, they were in chairs, they were everywhere. And this is our equivalent of a NICU. And there, with these 150 babies, the first ward that I had gone into, there were 2 nurses. Compare that to a US NICU where the ratio is maybe 2 babies to 1 nurse. So of course, these ratios are drastically different. And what we realize is that this isn't a Uganda thing. This is low resource settings around the world. This is almost every single hospital. We just don't hear about it. We just don't know about it. And to make things worse, there was no medical equipment in these hospitals. The only equipment we saw was quite literally collecting dust in a corner or room that nurses called the equipment graveyard. And it's exactly what you're picturing. It's just a mound full of broken medical equipment, because even if we donate the equipment, what happens when it needs continuous power and we don't have continuous power? What happens when dust gets into our equipment and fries the electronics? Who comes to fix it? And so equipment often gets donated, ends up in this graveyard, and nurses are challenged with caring for these patients without any tools to help guide therapy. So we started Neopenda 10 years ago.
Wow. There's a story in a nutshell. Sounds like a book in there somewhere.
Oh, I've got many books in here. Just no time to write them, nor the expertise in how to write them.
So, I mean, the common thread in all that is that you're a serial startup person. You love starting them up. Like you have a passion for it. So you have this entrepreneurial spirit. Have you always had that? Is it always something that seems to be, you're always looking for that, something that you're going to fix or there's things to fix and you're finding a solution for that?
Yeah. I think when you put it that way, probably, I didn't grow up knowing really what that meant, but my dad, who has been both my parents and my sister, they've been incredible formative influences in my life. But my dad started his company before I was born. So, that was his first baby. And so just seeing him lead, seeing him go through the challenges and navigate complexities, I think that's always been ingrained. On the engineering side, I was the kid that the grandparents would come to when their glasses broke because I was always trying to fix the things. And so I think that's always just been there. That's always kind of been part of my, what I've been interested in. But entrepreneurship in its true sense, I didn't really know what the word meant. One day, maybe I will release our very first venture competition pitch deck, because we've come a long way since then. It was good enough to get the funding, but we've definitely made some improvements since the competition. So entrepreneurial spirit maybe has been there.
For sure.
But I don't know that I can say I wanted to go back to grad school for entrepreneurship in particular.
No, I think you're there based on life experience already. So, and you started Neopenda 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. 10 years ago. Yeah.
So, so you kicked it off back then. How did you get that started? Like, what was the first step for you? Like, I mean, that's a big idea.
Yeah.
How did you launch that?
Honestly, it's one step at a time, and we didn't really know what we were doing. That's fine. That's part of startup life. So yep. I think the biggest thing that I would say here is find a problem worth solving, and then you'll figure out how to do the rest of it. So when we had gone to Uganda, Tess and I were there, and we just realized that we could use our biomedical engineering backgrounds to design MedTech that functions anywhere in the world. Where you are born and where you live shouldn't determine whether you live, and healthcare and high quality access to healthcare should be a fundamental right all over the world. But it's not, and there aren't enough people that are focused on doing something like this. Admittedly, it is extraordinarily challenging. Now, having gone through 10 years of it, it's lots of mountains that we are moving on a daily basis. But if nobody does it, then that's why, something as simple as a vital signs monitor doesn't exist out there. And so the first step was really just acknowledging that we needed to create a company out of it. And so we started Neopenda, kind of spun it out of the university, and we did an accelerator program. So we were two engineering students that knew nothing about business. And so we did an accelerator. And so that was a really fun time because we were
good experience
doing it while in grad school, and we did this accelerator in Maryland. So we were commuting from Maryland all the way up to New York. And so that's a story for another day as well. But it was a full-time accelerator called Relevant Health, and that's where we were introduced to a lot more of what does it take to go from this breadboard that we created in our lab in New York to a fully functional product, and let our product drive business and vice versa. And just kind of thinking about all of the things around that. So it was a 5-month accelerator crash course. We were with an incredible cohort that just was going through all the same trials and tribulations and just trying to understand what things meant. And I think that was kind of really a pivotal moment for us where we started to gain some initial traction. We started to get our initial big funding. The accelerator provided some level of funding, which was great. But they also helped us learn what it took to actually get additional funding. And so we got some of our earliest funding, I think immediately after program, some of it from Vodafone America's Foundation and Cisco, and we entered into business plan competitions. And so just really starting to get our feet wet there. Our journey over the past 10 years, just at a high level, we spent the first 6-ish years in research and development on the first product, NeoGuard, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. But we spent about 6-ish years on R&D for that. We received regulatory clearance on the product in 2021, and that led to our launch first in Kenya. Now we've grown to Uganda and Ghana. We're excited to have sold our first product to over 50 hospitals that are actively using our devices on a daily basis. So a lot of what we've learned in this process is that innovation is not just on the product. There's a lot of innovation that has to happen on the business, the customer support, the supply chain, every single aspect, particularly given the market that we're operating in. So it's been a really fun journey.
There's many moving parts, isn't there, once you start rolling into it. So let's talk about the device then. Let's talk about what you actually created and what's being used out there.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about, what this picture of a really overcrowded, understaffed wards looks like, we wanted to figure out how do we help empower nurses? How do we give them the tools that they need to identify which patients actually needed their attention so that they can provide more timely and appropriate care to their patients? Vital signs monitoring has been around for decades. We didn't invent that, but vital signs monitor doesn't exist across most of the hospitals that we operate in. That's gold standard around the world. Why doesn't it exist? It's because traditional equipment is bulky, it's expensive, it's hard to maintain, it requires consumables that aren't locally available. And so for a variety of reasons, traditional equipment just fails in most emerging markets. So that's why we created NeoGuard. This is our NeoGuard wearable device. It's a vital signs monitor that continuously measures pulse rate, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation, and temperature in a simple headband. And then the vitals wirelessly connect to a centralized dashboard on a tablet. So clinicians can look at one screen and be able to tell what's going on with all their patients. We trend all the data over time. We alert when the vitals go outside of healthy ranges. Up to 15 patients can be visualized from one screen. So really taking kind of that traditional and bulky equipment and paring it down to the essentials that most of our hospitals need.
So all that information can be extracted just from a headband?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So
yeah, there's 2 sensors on the back of the headband. This is our pulse oximeter, which normally measures pulse rate, oxygen saturation. If you're not familiar, when you go to the doctor, they put the finger clip on you. That's pulse oximetry.
That's what that measures. Okay.
It's just a different form of that. And our algorithms can also get respiratory rate off of it. And then we've got a temperature sensor. So 4 different vitals from one small device that's designed specifically with and for our emerging markets.
And that's wireless. So it transmits to a centralized monitoring station.
Yep, exactly. So we provide a tablet. It transmits over Bluetooth Low Energy. So it allows each wearable device to connect to a tablet. Our devices are battery operated, so it lasts for 36 hours without having to recharge. Then you can just pop it out, recharge the battery, wipe everything down with alcohol, and then it's ready for reuse on the next
Oh my
patient.
gosh, it's so cool.
Thanks.
Wow, that's
We think
really
so, but
awesome.
I'm biased.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And so when you first sort of like started showing this and you know, introducing this to people, what kind of a response did you get? Kind of
Yeah.
like that? Oh my God, this is so cool.
So honestly, initially, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. I think
Really, eh?
the concept of it is incredible. And I think everybody just understands the importance of what we're doing. Hospitals understand the importance. The reason why I say it's a mixed bag is because product market fit is so essential, especially in our markets. If a device is not integrated into a nurse's normal workflow, they're too busy to deal with it. They just,
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
They
So
gotta learn one more thing, or
right,
it's one more app or one more
right.
software.
And by design, we look different, we act different, we are a different type of product than your traditional
Yeah.
vital signs monitors. So we spent about a year and a half of our initial launch in product market fit, and part of that was understanding, okay, we have regulatory clearance now. We have CE mark on the product, which is European FDA. We have CE mark on the product and local regulatory in Kenya. Who actually is going to buy this product? And
Right.
so we started out with a distributor who was a great partner for us. And we realized that distributors have the network, they know how to sell products, but they know how to sell hundreds of products. A
Right.
product that has no name and no brand is a difficult thing to sell. And we were going to be our
Mm-hmm.
best salespeople. So we switched our model after this product market fit phase. But even before that, once we got into hospitals, the next question was, do our customers like the product and what feedback are we getting? So we
Mm-hmm.
got feedback that didn't necessarily come up in clinical trials, no matter how robustly we designed them. But commercial use is always going to be a bit different. So some of the feedback was more minor around the alarms are too loud in our small private hospital. So, can you decrease the volume to
Mm.
performance issues that we just hadn't seen on patients? But by nature of being on more and more patients, you're going to see more things.
Right.
So, we realized the importance of kind of taking all of that feedback, aggregating it, making improvements to the product. And that's what's now led to our 90% plus customer satisfaction. So
Ooh,
now it's
nice.
been really great that our customers love the product. We've
Nice.
seen incredible utilization, over 50,000 hours of monitoring with our system across thousands of patients. Of course, there are always things that we need to fix, and we're very attentive to what those things are. But it's nice that the product performance is consistently improving, and our customers are really appreciating the customer support that we provide to them.
And did the nurses find that once they adopted this device, it was an easy thing to understand, and they realized that, oh yeah, we can bring this on without too much of a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. We do a lot of training. The initial training is not super long. It's pretty easy to get people to know how to use the product. It's been designed to be user friendly. That being said, we see a lot of nurse turnover in our hospitals. And so, one of the things that we had to think a little bit more about is how do we provide refresher trainings to our facilities when there is
Right.
turnover, new nurses coming in, new nurses leaving, just what does that look like? And so, we do provide more routine training to a lot of our nurses just to ensure that everybody knows how to use the product. It's pretty intuitive
Mm-hmm.
once you start working with the product, and so it's not a huge lift. We do find that sometimes there's a generational gap, and I think this is true for any technology. So your more
Yeah.
experienced nurses prefer a more traditional piece of equipment because that's what they're used to, that's what they've been
Right.
using for decades. And our less experienced nurses can pick it up even faster than I can. So
Oh yeah,
it's incredible to just see what that looks like. But you need both sides of it.
for sure.
We need the experienced as nurses. We need the younger nurses, and it's been really exciting to just see both of them adopt the product really well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that part about understanding the market and understanding what is going to be pushback, because you got this great device and this is going to work great, and then people are like, wait, I don't have time for this. I can't add any more things to this. And I've had several conversations with people about frontline people, primarily nurses, who you've got to they've got to adopt it. They have to be on board, because they're not going to just bring on something that's going to expand their workload or extend their time or complicate their life on a daily basis. It's already complicated enough. So that's really interesting that ended up being part of your research process, and you're able to kind of get through that.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that we're most proud of is that, yes, well, two things. One, we can actually sell to our hospitals. And this is a market where traditionally equipment is donated into our hospitals.
Right.
The perception is that hospitals can't afford products.
Right.
There are limited resources for sure.
Sure.
And so we have to balance that. But 50 plus hospitals is not an anomaly. That's not a, one-off hospital that's purchasing products. This is, proven that public, private, counties, governments can purchase the product at a price point that is affordable. And we're really proud to be paving the way.
Mm-hmm.
Paving the way means that there's no playbook. So we're doing a lot of trial and error. We're making the mistakes, we're learning from the mistakes, and we're trying something else. And so there is a lot of trial and error in that. But the other part of it is that customer adoption and understanding what does it take for a device to actually get adopted. That's a really hard thing to figure out. And a lot of it we're still figuring out. How do we scale something that it does require a little bit more human touch on the customer support side? There are a lot of pieces around that. We're servicing 50 hospitals. What happens when we're in 1,000 hospitals? How do we make sure that we can still provide that same level of customer support? So it's an exciting next phase, next chapter for us.
Yeah, exciting problems to have.
Exactly.
For sure. Is there, for, when you're developing a product, it's always, well, are we going to have something that they need to purchase on a regular basis moving forward? Is there software updates? Is there, we got to add this piece of equipment on? Does it work like that? Or is it kind of like, you buy it, it's great, it works, really, there's not much more to it after that?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question, because with the markets that we operate in, the ability to pay for recurring, product is a lot more challenging.
Sure.
If you talk to any investor, they only want to see a SaaS recurring revenue model. Yeah. So it's this interesting balance, and for good reason. I understand the logic behind it.
How do you sustain it? Once you sell it, how do you sustain it and keep the company in business? If you only sell it once,
right?
What else?
Then you have to keep selling to lots and lots of hospitals, and that it is an interesting challenge to have. And so we've seen both sides of it. How we are approaching it is, by design, we didn't put any consumables into the product. There's no recurring revenue directly from the existing product. We did that by design. We don't think that the hospitals should have consumables. That's where things break down. If you can't, the hospitals here in the US, all of the equipment has single-use probes or sensors. Then you have to toss that. Nothing in Africa is ever single use. And so now you're potentially introducing infection from one patient to the next, or all sorts of things that create complexity. So by design, we wanted our product to be reusable and not have any consumables. That, of course, makes it challenging to have a recurring revenue model when you don't have any consumables. So the way that we're addressing that is twofold. One, we have a pseudo recurring revenue model. What I mean by that is the exact same hospital customer starts out with a pilot number of devices to make sure that they like it, but it's usually not sufficient to meet the demand that is needed directly in the ward itself. And then, because we've also designed for the smallest patient populations, it's very easy for us to sell this product to pediatric and adult wards. Exact same customer, exact same distribution channel, our same salespeople that are going to the same hospital. They already have trust in the product. And so now we can get them to buy more and more product. And that becomes a pseudo recurring revenue model. Beyond that, there is a tremendous amount of data that we're collecting with our system that allows, we can pull all of that data, anonymize it, of course, with all of the data privacy considerations in place, aggregate it, and now we can generate unique insights for hospitals. Many of these hospitals don't have existing electronic medical records, or that's a lot of the efforts are just paper charts right now. But there's just so much invaluable data that we're collecting automatically from our system, remove the errors of translating from a paper chart into an electronic system. And now we can have unique insights that these hospitals are looking for. And it's not just hospitals, it's NGOs, ministries of health, pharma companies, med device companies. The list goes on for the type of data that we can collect on the ground in the field. That's where we can introduce recurring revenue model. We'll introduce NeoCloud to the market next year, so stay tuned for more updates on that.
That's very cool. Sorry, what was the last thing you said? You'll introduce Neo what?
NeoCloud. That's the
that's what that
platform is. That will be
NeoCloud. Okay, I like that.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's great too because you're talking about collecting data from places and communities that you don't probably have. There isn't probably a lot of data on.
Yeah.
Which is, we've got lots of data on North American hospitals and developed countries, but we don't have as much information on underdeveloped or low income countries as well, right? So that's massive. I mean, particularly if you're trying to do any kind of research on those groups of communities. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's extraordinarily important for us because even when we first started this, we didn't have access to any data. It just didn't really exist. And so you have to create your own. But think about what we could do if we aggregate all of that data and actually provide what's happening in the field, especially now in a lot of today's world. Demographic health surveys were often done by organizations like USAID. Now in a world where that doesn't exist, what happens with these DHS surveys, or what happens with some of these things that happen, fairly infrequently? It happens every couple of years because it takes so much effort to go from facility to facility and understand what's actually happening. What if we can collect that data automatically from our system and actually do something more meaningful with it? So that's the process that we're in right now, is understanding how can we use this data for broader global health initiatives? What actions can actually be taken from it? I think as society, we've gone through these phases of there's no data, period. And then there's too much data and we don't know what to do with it.
What do we do with all this data?
Right, exactly. And so now we're trying to be pretty strategic around, let's collect the data that is actually meaningful and can drive systemic change.
Would there be a way, like, say, I'm doing a study and I want this kind of information? Would you be able to adapt the device to pull different types of information?
Yeah, I think that's a future next step for us as well. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I think we can pull off of it. It's not just the vital signs data. Our app includes things like gestational age for our patients, their weight at birth, diagnoses, a lot of different information that gets pulled into the system.
So it gets programmed into that. So it's attached to that device. Ooh, cool.
Yeah, there's lots of things there. And that data can also be fed into machine learning, into AI. So we've actually got a project ongoing right now that recently kicked off, where we're doing a clinical trial to look at clinical decision support. So with our vital signs data, amongst other parameters, can we help guide clinicians on what type of oxygen therapy does a patient need? We can detect already with our NeoGuard monitor that a patient needs oxygen, but do they need to be on CPAP? Do they need to be on a nasal cannula? Do they need to be on a ventilator? Can we help predict what the next pathways should be for them? And can we help hospitals predict what their equipment needs should be? Based on our data, can we tell a hospital 30% of your patients need oxygen, you only have capacity for 5%. And now there's data to suggest that you need to increase your capacity of oxygen to meet the demands of your patients. So it's pretty early stage, but we're really excited about the project and running this trial. So again, stay tuned for more details on that.
Yeah, for the NeoCloud.
Yeah.
And you said the NeoGuard, that's the name of the device that you showed us.
That's the wearable device. Yeah.
And then you also said something about it's not just for newborns or babies. It's adults, all ages, all sizes of heads, everything, right? So it's not restricted to that. Yep. I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, not restricted. We are focused primarily in the neonatal space. It's kind of a forgotten patient population, most vulnerable. So that's where a lot of our focus is right now. As we expand to pediatric and adult patients, some of the feedback we've received, understandably, is that we'd like to test on multiple locations on the body. So we are looking at validating on the upper arm for adults. And so we're looking at introducing that next year as well, just with the next iteration of our hardware, the latest and greatest of it.
Wow, that's very cool. Where did the name come from?
So Neopenda is Neo is for originally for baby. Now, because we're not just baby, we're thinking of it as innovative or new. And Penda is part Swahili for love. So originally baby love, or
Ah,
now new
that's
love.
nice. Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And the branding's really nice too, by the way. I really like
Thanks.
it. Okay, so you've already talked about expansion and scalability. Let's talk a little bit about your professional journey.
Yeah.
You're now 10 years into this company, and your role is CEO and founder, right? Co-founder.
Co-founder. Yep.
So how is your professional leadership CEO persona developed through all of this? How did you grow as a leader and as a founder and a CEO
Yeah.
over this last 10 years with the company?
There's a lot of learning still to go. I think the past 10 years have been just transformational in the way that I think about the world, the way that I like to lead, the way that I like to listen, and a lot of it is driven by human-centered design and by people. Our team is and always will be our strongest asset. No matter how incredible the product is, we can't do any of this without the team. So my philosophy is very much that we hire people that are smarter and the best at what they do and are driven towards the mission and vision of the company. And that's not the mission and vision of today. That's the mission and vision of what we can be. So, when I think about leadership, I think about the 10 people that are working on the team that are fighting tirelessly against the mountains that we have to move on a daily basis, and they're the ones that are doing it. So all of the kudos, all of the traction goes to our team. And when I think about leadership, it's definitely been a huge journey. When we first started, it was Tess and I, of course, the two people that lived off of no salary and that we just cared so deeply. We've went to a conference in Germany once. This is a funny side story, but in some of our early days, we went to a conference in Germany and we are like bootstrapping our way to get there. We stayed in a hostel because we had no money. And there's a really funny image. Maybe I'll share it with you afterwards. But it's of the two of us sitting in this stairwell eating McDonald's because we couldn't afford anything else, and that was the only place where there was Wi-Fi in this hostel. So we've come a little bit further than that, but that's the two of us, and we care very deeply about what we're doing, and so we were willing to do pretty much anything, and honestly, probably still would. But as you continue to grow the team, our team will do pretty much anything, but that's a little extreme. I will not ask our team to do that. But there's a lot of ownership that you have to give up. As you bring on new team members that have deeper expertise, there's a lot of letting go. Even between Tess and I, we had to, as a biomedical engineer, I loved the product side, I loved the engineering side, but we needed to split roles, and my forte, my expertise was more so actually on the business side, and Tess is she's our CTO and leads all of our product development. And so just understanding kind of the divvying up of responsibilities early on and where we excel, where we don't excel. I'm usually, I've got 10,000 ideas, and maybe one of those 10,000 ideas is good, like really, really good. Tess is really great at bringing me back into reality and saying, like,
she's your grounder.
Here's the good one. Exactly. And so I think just understanding where you excel and just accepting that. Of course, we can always improve, we can always grow in that area. And I strive for that on a daily basis. How do I do things better every single day? But I think that's part of it. Part of it is letting ownership go to your team when they do have that expertise and figuring out how do you now manage them. How do you manage somebody that's smarter than you? That's hard. That's really hard to do. But that's all of our team. And so I think that's the piece of it that, it's a constant journey. I've had coaches over the years, and I think coaches and therapists are extraordinarily important. I didn't realize that until a few years ago, how important coaches and therapists are to the work that we do. The workload and the stress that we carry is pretty tremendous. And I think even more so in the healthcare space, which I think a lot of our listeners are in the healthcare space, because the work that
Mm-hmm.
we do, it isn't just good enough for a school project. It is something that can help save a patient's life or harm them
Mm-hmm.
if you do it the wrong way. And so that's a really big responsibility. There's a lot of responsibility that I think as a founder, I carry as a female founder, where traditionally I can't fail because I can't fail my fellow female founders. I can't fail because other people need to be fighting for medtech in Africa. So I have to fight for the medtech that exists in markets that are traditionally overlooked. I can't fail because babies are often forgotten. The start of life that we all care so deeply about, but who's creating medical devices for them? We always start with adults and then work our way down, but it doesn't actually
Right.
work that way. So there's so many areas of responsibility. I have a team that I'm responsible for paying salary for, and making sure that they get paid on time and they're well compensated. They're caring for their families, they're caring for their people, and so a lot of that is the weight that we carry as a founder, and it's often a lonely space. I think it's not as talked about that. I was talking to another founder the other day, and it's interesting because as a founder, you celebrate the wins way earlier than the rest of the team because you know about the wins way earlier, but you're hedging your bets, right? You know something could go wrong before everything is signed
Yeah.
and done. But you also celebrate the losses. You can foresee what is coming up, and what is going to be really detrimental. So there's a lot that goes on inside a founder's mind. And I think a lot of that weight is to show up every single day, knowing that what you are doing is making a difference and carrying that. And I think that's a lot of leadership. It's knowing that when the times are tough, we care very deeply about the work that we do, and we have to keep fighting even if the days are really hard. And what makes it easier is knowing that we can wake up every day knowing that we're improving the care for patients around the world.
It's a heavy load for sure. Like there's a lot on your shoulders, and um, what kind of things do you do to help lighten that? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
your own personal health and physical health, mental health, emotional health. It's all part of holding that load up. So how do you stay strong? How do you stay whole during all of this?
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways that I personally do it. I had a baby a couple years ago, so she's now 2.5,
Congratulations.
and she's my
Ah,
favorite human in the world. So she's
yeah.
the best thing. Also
They're a
really hard.
motivator for sure.
Sorry?
They're a
Oh
motivator for
yeah,
sure.
there. I
Yeah.
mean, we have to keep doing it to create a better future for our kids, and so
Yeah.
that's a lot of the motivation behind it. But the reason I bring it up is because there's a hard stop to my day. I care equally about being a founder and my commitment to the company and the patients that we're serving, as well as my family. And there's a hard stop when I have to pick her up from daycare every day. That's her
Yeah.
time. That's my time to be with my partner, with my dog, with my daughter. And of course, some days that's not there and we have to adjust, and that's fine. But I care about spending that time with each other. And so there is kind of that hard stop, which it took me years to kind of get to that point where I can kind of separate what's happening at work from just having a life outside of work. And a lot of my life is work. And I'm fine with that, honestly, because I love it. I love what I do. I care about
Yeah,
what
it's
I
your
do.
passion, right?
Right,
It's
it's our
it's what
passion. It's not a passion project, but it is my passion, right? We
Yeah.
care deeply about the work that we do. So yeah, my mornings often look like 5 a.m. days, but by the time I pick up my daughter, I've got a good 12 hours in, and then I can shut down for the rest of the night, and it's great. But I think just the health, the mental health side of it, coaching and therapy is really tremendous. We moved out to Seattle because we wanted to be a little bit closer to nature. So I go on a bunch of hikes, and that's where I feel mentally most at peace and where I can kind of get that rejuvenation just from the beauty that nature has to offer, the quietness, the sereneness, everything around that. And so that's part of the reason why I made the decision to move out to Seattle. Is to be a little bit more connected there. So everyone has to find their thing that gets them through the tough times, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not like you can just get to the next thing because the bigger we grow, the more challenges there are, the more things that we have to do, the more decisions we have to make. But the more exciting it is, the more patients we're improving quality of care for, the more exciting the opportunity, the more partnerships we have to really impart change in society. And so the weight becomes, equally exciting and challenging at the same time. And that grows, and you have to figure out what works best for you. For me, it's spending time with family and friends and going out on a hike and just having some time to rejuvenate. I definitely think that vacations are absolutely essential. We encourage our team to take them, and we don't message them on vacation. There's a majority of my time off is my time off. Don't talk to me unless something is truly burning, but this is my time to just disconnect.
Yeah.
And
you know where the fire extinguisher is.
yeah,
Put it out.
Yeah, exactly. I trust you. I hired you because you know how to do this. So go put it out. And it's great. And I think that's needed for everyone. It's if you don't have that time to just mentally relax and kind of step away from things, then how are you going to get through it all?
Exactly. Did you know that you're in the Pacific Northwest, and so it rains a lot, and you get this really great smell after the rain, right? Do you know it has a name?
No.
It's called petrichor.
Oh.
Yeah, I did not know this, but I interviewed a guest who is an executive coach, and her company name is Petrichor. And I said, what's petrichor? Where'd that name come from? She goes, oh, that's the smell after a rain in a forest. And I was like, wow, okay.
I love that.
Isn't that cool? I know.
That's amazing.
I'm telling everyone that now. It's like, do you know this word?
Learn something new every day.
That's really cool. And I was going to ask you something else, and now I lost my track when I was doing that. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. So now what are you doing? Now you're at a critical stage right now. You're in the middle of some fundraising, aren't you?
Yeah. It's the phase of growth that we're in right now is such an exciting phase. I think it's a good problem to have because there's too many opportunities, and I think the harder challenge is to figure out where to focus and how to scale. And
that can be hard, actually. You want to do everything.
Yeah, exactly. We know this product is actually saving lives. How do we get it out to the hundreds of countries that need this product? But let's pump the brakes a little bit, because we do see that startups often fail because they scale faster than they can. And a lot of it is, of course, growth opportunity. But for us, let's talk about high level what those growth opportunities look like. We could create new products in our pipeline because this isn't the only product, the only medical device that's needed in our markets. We're ISO 13485 certified. We've got a robust design and development process and quality management system. Let's do it again. But we can also,
why not?
Yeah, why not? But we can also expand from existing, neonatal patients to pediatric and adult. We can go from inpatient to outpatient, primary healthcare, remote patient monitoring, community health settings. Right. We can expand geographically. There's a million different opportunities that we have to pursue. And I think part of it is understanding what will it take for us to go from 50 hospitals to 1,000 hospitals. There's a lot of back office stuff that needs to happen. Your HR processes, how do you grow from a 10-person team to a 100-person team? What are all of the policies that need to be in place that enable us to keep our culture, keep our values, but still continue to grow effectively as we bring on more and more team members? What are all of the operational things around inventory and accounting and all of the pieces that have to happen behind the scenes, but often get forgotten in this phase because we're too excited to grow? So that's the phase that we're in right now. We're in this transition to scale where we're navigating what are the most important, the most pressing, the highest urgent needs in our markets that we should be pursuing from a growth perspective. What are the systems and infrastructure that need to happen, that need to be in place, that will enable us to grow? And then we're going to flip a light switch on and we're going to grow extraordinarily fast. But this transition to scale phase is extraordinarily important and will define the rest of Neopenda's future. So what we're doing with that is we are raising funds. We're in a pre-Series A round, which we're really excited about. And we're raising dually from VC funds as well as a community investment round. So to date, we've actually raised $6 million. Half of that has been through grants, non-dilutive capital, other funds. The other half from investments. So angels, family offices, VCs. We care equally about both sides of that. R&D is typically funded by grants because that's a riskier element of the business.
Right.
Investment dollars typically go to scaling what we know to be proven. As we transition to scale and go through all of these really complex challenges over the next year, we realize that it's not just capital that we need. It's expertise from individual people who want to make a difference, who want to contribute, and who want to invest in a company and change our story with us. So we launched a campaign on WeFunder a couple months ago. And WeFunder, for those who don't know, is a community investment platform where anybody, anywhere in the world can invest in Neopenda for as little as $100. We've gotten checks from $100 all the way to $25,000. So it's a wide range, but we can now tap into your expertise, and we can now leverage all of the knowledge that individual people have and use that to accelerate our growth. So it's been really exciting to see just the traction that we've gotten over the past couple of months, and would encourage anybody who's interested to come talk to me, or go to wefunder.com/Neopenda, and you can learn all about the campaign there.
Awesome. And where else and tell them about the website and where they can reach you if they want to contact you directly.
Yeah. And the website, our website is just neopenda.com. It'll direct you to WeFunder if you are interested in learning more about that. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me. Sona Shah is, I don't remember the exact handle, but I'm sure we can put that out there.
Yep.
So
all the links will be in the show notes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, my LinkedIn, and then you can also feel free to email me, sona@neopenda.com, and I would love to connect with anyone who's interested.
Well, I certainly hope you're going to have some people, and I'm pretty sure you'll have some people contacting you, but it's been an amazing story. Super impressed. You and Tess have done an amazing thing. So you got to be proud.
Thanks.
And I just want to thank you for your time today, Sona, and for sharing your heart and your vision and your passion for what you're doing. And wish you and Neopenda the biggest of success. And we'll be talking again because I want to know more. I want to know what the next thing actually is when you decide to do it. So
yeah,
thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure.
Wow. That was a really inspiring story coming from Sona. She took a very non-traditional path that led her from engineering to healthcare, innovation, and from teaching in Kenya and recognizing a huge gap in the medical care there, and then actually going out and built the solution. Super cool. It's not flashy, overbuilt, but super smart and scalable for sure. Truly designed with the user in mind. She also got real about the challenges of scaling and managing a team and taking care of yourself as a founder or a CEO. Leadership is truly about letting go and trusting others. We've heard that before. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, hit that follow button or subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and help us get the stories like Sona's out to the world. And she can find some more investors for a really important product. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time when you come by and listen to The Healthy Enterprise. Have a great day.